So, unfortunately, there has been a recent shooting again by police at an unarmed person. This Latino man was shot by the LAPD, and protests have ignited. This is 18-year-old Andres Guardado in LA. Now, the Alex Villanueva, who's the current sheriff, hasn't explained what prompted exactly the shooting involved with Andres, and this happened in Gardena, which is in southwest LA. And they gave some updates, but officials just said that Andres Guardado was armed. They said he was actually armed with an illegal handgun and was not wearing a uniform identifying him as a security guard. But their failure to explain what actually led to the shooting has infuriated protesters who on Sunday said they are concerned the shooting was unjustified and demanded more answers from authorities. They carried signs that read "Justice for Andres." Among those people was Edith Abarca, Guardado's aunt. She had an El Salvador flag wrapped around herself, reflecting the country and her family fled because of war, which, by the way, we caused. And
we mean the military industrial complex and the CIA,
exactly,
and Obama,
and those, yeah, exactly, all those neoliberals. And what I was reading too before was that a lot of these people were saying that Andres did not have a weapon, that Andres never carried a handgun like that, even though he was a security guard. He didn't have one. So there's conflicting accounts whether he had a gun or not. We see this when it comes to police shootings. There's always automatically supposedly a weapon these people have. But they, like I said, they haven't really answered as to how this happened.
Wow, he was 18?
18 years old. Alex Villanueva told reporters that investigators were still gathering evidence, though he didn't say which deputy shot Guardado yet. So, he promised a thorough investigation, and this happened at about 6 p.m. last Thursday, following a confrontation with the deputies at 420 West Redondo Beach Boulevard. And he had been chatting with someone in a car that was blocking the location when deputies from the Compton Sheriff's Station pulled up, and he fled holding a gun with two deputies chasing him on foot. One of the deputies confronted him and opened fire, striking him in the upper torso, he said. Authorities said they do not know whether Guardado had pointed his weapon at the deputy. He was shot 6 times, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. So, again, even if he had a gun, you guys, even if he had a gun, what happened to what Joe Biden said? Shoot him in the leg. Just shoot him in the leg. Because, I mean, why are we shooting somebody 6 times?
Because they're scared.
They're
cowards with guns who have authority, and
yeah,
it's bullshit. It's bullshit. That shooting somebody should be the absolute last resort. You have tasers.
Yeah, you have tasers. I mean, if he fled. Here's the thing,
and
though.
We have the ability to even create weapons that doesn't kill people. You know,
yeah,
a rifle taser. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's the thing. You don't have to shoot the guy 6 times. If you shoot him once in a place where it's not lethal, he's gonna stop. I'm not even advocating they shoot people, but I'm saying if you're that scared and you're trying to stop the guy, maybe don't shoot him 6 times. And the whole thing about fearing for your life, though, we have one guy that's by himself and is fleeing because what have we been seeing this whole time? We've been seeing brown people and black people get shot by the police, and not just those people. Now everybody's getting shot at by the police, every color.
Minorities,
all
minorities,
and it's poor people too. And so obviously, when I don't know about you guys, but when I see the police, I don't get a sense of security. I get a sense of more panic, and I can only imagine that panic is exponential. The more brown and poor and more issues you have on your criminal background, I can imagine it gets big and big and big because you're so scared. Because now when you see a cop, it's like getting PTSD. And I'm not minimizing that. It's like, wow, oh my God, like what's going to happen? Oh my God. And that shouldn't be what we feel when we see law enforcement. So.
And we never even talk about it, but basically, like, it's like when there's like ever problems, right? The thought comes to our head after dealing with police, should we even call the police?
Right.
Because there's more problems that arise from calling the police.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
And that's not how it should be. That's not how...
No. That's not protecting and serving. That's imposing fear through authority and power. So what happened was that protesters ignited, of course, and there was a march for this man, and this was in Compton. Compton is nearby Gardena, and this happened last night, and the family members were there gathering to commemorate him and calling for justice. And then, of course, there was a 3.8-mile trek into Compton.
The sheriff's station in Compton.
So exactly. So they were walking through to the sheriff's station. And so then that's when the tensions broke out. And that's when it boiled over. There was a large group of deputies who called for backup. I'm sure they were scared too. And so that many of the protesters fled, and they were tear gas, and they had rubber bullets hit them. And that was right in front of the steps of the sheriff's office. So let's have a look at a little video that we found on Instagram.
Yes, and the man who posted it is Yakuza. It looks like he was actually on the ground. This guy actually had drone footage of the Black Lives Matter march in West Hollywood, which is really nice. Mm-hmm. So you guys check that guy out.
Really slow breaths. I'm right here. Okay? I'm right between you and them. They can't hit you.
The same thing on you, okay? This is gonna hopefully spray them out. It's gonna be a little force. Blink if you can. Blink if you can. Other side, other side. Tilt your head to the side a little bit. There you go. Now other side. Blink if you can. Blink if you can. Feeling better?
Okay. So
fam, yeah, you see this. They're literally not doing anything. No. They're on the other side of the fence, and they just start shooting.
Yeah. Like I said, nothing gets violent until the police are involved. I mean, we've seen this whole time. The police backed off because they were forced to by many people who were suing them, and the looting stopped. Like, all of these things stopped because of, like, it was when the police inciting this. It was the police inciting this sort of back and forth violence. And now we're seeing it with this. And by the way, the coroner said that the autopsy is pending. And the police claim that there was a .40 caliber semi-automatic pistol with no serial number and an illegal extended magazine loaded with 13 rounds that was discovered at the scene, according to Wegener, who was talking to CNN. And they also said that they told CNN that Guardado's cousin, whose name is Steve Abarca, said that he never knew him to have any sort of gun. So again, we're seeing the different reports. The police are saying he had a gun and there was a gun found at the scene, but his family members are saying that he never had a gun. And so he was also not wearing a uniform and not legal age to work as an armed security guard in the state of California. So there might be something to that as well. But yeah, they're still determining if there's any video footage. So fam, maybe we need to go find some video footage.
Down there,
yeah, exactly. Again, this was a kid. I mean, this is a child, 18 years old.
18, God.
And so that's going on right now. So no, protests aren't going to stop anytime soon. And then, of course, the FBI quickly got involved, which is interesting, by the way, that they quickly got involved in this because they're investigating the news found in the NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace's garage at Talladega. Now, we know that NASCAR is a sport that's generally followed by a lot of white people. We know we're from Florida. Daytona Beach.
Daytona 500.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Fam, before actually Confederate flags were allowed to fly, but because of the protests, they actually banned those Confederate flags, which is great. But still,
it didn't sit well with a lot of people.
NASCAR people, there's a lot of them who had those flags.
I mean, growing up in Florida, Confederate flags were a common thing you'd see, especially in Central Florida. Definitely see those everywhere. I didn't really ever think, I considered it like, why is this, a thing? But like, it never really affected me that way. Obviously, that is a privileged point of view to have grown up with. But it definitely, I definitely see how it, like, as I got older and became more involved in activism, I definitely started seeing how, like, why it's so offensive to people, because it did signify slavery. I don't put that much input into flags, because even the American flag, I really don't care about patriotism like that, but a lot of these people do, and I think that definitely had a lot to do with that. But I still think it's kind of crazy, a noose with everything that's happening, with all the lynchings or the hangings.
It seems like it's like a plan, coordination. I don't know what is going on. I think, although we don't criticize Trump a lot in this show, it must go with saying that Trump has definitely
he's exacerbated.
He's provoked his crowd in a way.
He's empowered them to feel like they can be outright racist. And I think Trump manipulates this. I think he's a businessman. He's a con man. He manipulates things. I don't even think he believes in half of the shit he says, but I think he incites that in his base. And I think his base is more dangerous than he is. And I
Absolutely.
I just think like that empowerment of, because you can even go back to Hitler, like all these people, they started believing in that. And that's what the problem is. I mean, we can't dismiss the danger of that. I think the neoliberals more so focus on how stupid he says, or the stupid things he says, or the things he tweets and all this other garbage, but they're not really focused on the effects of what it does to people, and like their ability to feel like they can just be blatantly like racist because they feel empowered. So again, the FBI is still investigating this, and they said, quote, "As we have stated unequivocally, there is no place for racism in NASCAR, and this act only strengthens our resolve to make the sport open and welcoming to all." So because again, this is obviously as a result of NASCAR banning the Confederate flag at its events. So
yeah, I mean, and this Bubba guy, is he white or is he black? Or I think he was white.
He has the son of a black mother and a white father.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's mixed.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, for sure.
See. Yes, for sure.
So yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty awful, because I mean, he's half black and he's still participating in a sport, and
there he is.
Yeah. I think that's pretty awful. I don't know, like, I mean, I think I still believe that the majority of people in the United States are past this. But I do think like there's a small segment that is really loud and that is really like pushing this. And there are a lot of people who just don't do enough to talk about it. And I think that's also a problem.
So here's something important that they point out, fam. It says that Wallace wore an "I Can't Breathe" shirt at a previous race to protest racial injustice following the police murder of George Floyd. So he was in support of Black Lives Matter, and then this noose shows up in his garage.
Kind of like, don't do that.
Like a threat.
Yeah. Because I'm sure he may not have been as vocal before, right? Like, I think this has made also a lot of people on the Democratic side and on the left, vocal. I think a lot of people, felt like we were 100% past this, and then they realize, oh, we're not. And so they become a lot more vocal. So interesting. But I guess we'll keep you guys posted, because they're still investigating that. I still find it interesting that the FBI was involved. Is that because it's like NASCAR?
Yeah, so they give more attention to NASCAR, just like how somehow now the NBA is going to have these rings that detect COVID-19. It's a privilege. It's a privilege thing. Because there's so much money involved in NASCAR and in NBA.
Right. that.
Like, why aren't they giving those rings to nurses and stuff? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and also like why is the FBI involved in a noose? It's symbolic. It sucks. It's awful. But look what's happening in California. Look how many people have died in the last few weeks, right? We have a guy in Victorville, a guy in Palmdale, a kid here in Gardena. Why, like, what, like, that's like a lot of people to be shot by police or to be dying in really weird circumstances. Shouldn't the FBI be involved when there's an actual lynching over when there's just a symbolic aspect of it, you know?